During the course of a project vehicle story, there's a turn. It's called the major turn, where a vehicle goes from I wouldn't even think about driving it anywhere to so when are we going on a road trip? This Jeep gets all the updates she needs and transforms into something new again. In this episode, we tackle her lights, exhaust, and her steering to make sure she's ready for the open road again.
So the next step on the CJ5 is we have our front drive shaft that we got to put U-joints in. So we're going to go ahead and do that, then be able to stick her back in and finally have four-wheel drive again. I'm not even sure why the drive shaft was out of this thing to begin with. Another thing that we're tackling today is we're switching out this oil line that goes to the block from the oil filter over here. It's seeing everything it's gonna see. I don't want catastrophic failure going down the road. I've actually heard of that happening where that line bursts and then oil sprays all over the engine bay. So got a brand new line we're getting ready to put in there now. Just put a new generator in for the Jeep, well, new. If you remember those big bundle of parts we got in the back of Evan's truck, we pulled some off that. This is the old generator. It was kind of just not working the way it should. So went ahead and pulled it apart, was gonna rebuild it, but decided that we found a working one would just be a little more quick. Because right now she ain't charging. So that's what we're doing right now. Let's get her on there. After some hard wrenching and work on the Jeep to get her driving down the road better, it was time to find some cosmetic things, even though I'm not quite sure she's ready for that stuff. But these light bulbs that are showing were really starting to wear on me. So we went ahead and found a guy that was parting out a CJ5 in Ohio, found the correct lenses and trim rings for those. These are the glass lenses, which are somewhat hard to find. So I was able to pick those guys up. We're gonna slap those on, so give the front end a little bit of a better look. Well, just going along with the theme of this Jeep, the choke cable's locked up. Go figure. So, have a second-hand one right here we're gonna slap on, which works great. It was actually in that pile of parts that you saw in the last episode. So, we're gonna get this put on there so we can actually have a choke cable that functions.
As brand new ordered parts begin to show up, like this low beam, high beam switch, and this voltage regulator, as well as a complete exhaust, serious progress begins to take place.
So in an attempt to keep figuring out why it's not charging, we got a new voltage regulator. This one definitely has seen better days. I'm gonna go ahead and pull that off and see if we can get this generator that we slapped on the other day to charge this battery. as a precaution, bought a new dimmer switch, which is right down here. This one seems like it might work, but I'd really like to have some low and high beams, so we're gonna go ahead and switch that guy out.
We pulled the exhaust manifold in order to extract a broken stud so that brand new exhaust could be bolted up. This turned into a complete overhaul of the manifold, including cleaning, sandblasting, milling, and fresh gaskets. Once the manifold had a fresh new look, we started examining the sealing surface, and it was rough. It had pitting from years of neglect, so we moved over to the quickway machine to do some milling. We took about 50 thousandths off this manifold in order to make it ready to go back on the motor.
She's running like a top now. Got it tuned up. Fresh exhaust. We're gonna take her down the road for the first time, and who knows how long. Well, our first test drive in the Jeep was a total success. This Jeep is running insane. I mean, it doesn't look like it should, but it is running so smooth. Got plenty of more work that needs to be done. We got to get the lights going. We did successfully get that voltage regulator and generator to start charging the battery, so that's a huge, huge win. So we're gonna go ahead and start working on the lights. Again, we went ahead and ordered the glass lenses for this stuff. We got to get some brake lights. Then we actually take it a little farther than just right down the road.
After our exciting first test drive, our brand new exhaust revealed that our valve train was slightly noisy. So we pulled the side cover and top covers off to begin the process of adjusting the valves to factory specs. This included adding brand new gaskets to make sure there was no future leaks coming from either of these areas.
So I went ahead and bought these new lights, or new quote unquote, from a guy who was parting out of CJ5. That's what the wiring looked like when I got it. Went ahead and had to kind of put a new harness together for it. So let's slap it in, and we're gonna have to do the same thing to the other side. So. Well, yep, as you would guess, the light turn on switch is frozen up too. So we went ahead and bought a new one because that's not gonna work. So let's put that on and see if the lights will work. Got the switch all put on. Let's see if she works. Hell yeah. Got some lights. Got tail lights too.
When I went to go mount the switch in its factory location, it wouldn't fit because that hole was keyed. So we took the switch on the left and used a grinder to modify it to make sure it was just like factory.
Great news, all the lights work, all the wiring is somehow good on this Jeep. Next thing we got to tackle is this issue. Driving down the road is a little sketchy, so check this out. Look at the steering box. That stuff's just a little bit wore out, so we're gonna rebuild the steering box, do some of the steering components, because right now when you drive down the road, it wants to jut to either side, kind of like you're on a cartoon. It's wild. So let's jump on it. Never gonna happen.
I tried to salvage the original steering wheel, but it was apparent it just was not gonna come off without heat. So we chipped away the old one, which was okay because there was plans to buy a new one in the near future. Once the heat was put on the splines that were binding it to its column, she popped right off.
Got the steering box all loose here, and we got it all ready to come out. Just just got to disconnect it from inside the dash here, and she should fall out the bottom.
After a very frustrating 15 minutes of trying to get the box out of the bottom of the Jeep, it was apparent she was not coming out that way. So we pulled the floor pans up and we took it out the top of the Jeep, which worked beautifully. This was the first time I ever dismantled and rebuilt a steering box, so I really needed some coaching to get through the entire process, but it was a really cool lesson. Let's start with some cleaning first because she was wore out and super dirty. Once everything was all cleaned up, it was time to use the press to push out the outer and inner bushings. With the box all ready to go back together, our first step is to push the inner and outer bushings back into the box. Then hone them out to a slip fit for the lever and shaft to ride on. Once the honing process was all finished, the box came together fairly quickly. We packed it with cotton picker grease, added new gaskets, and prepared it to go for a fresh coat of paint. With the steering box all reinstalled and working as it should, it was now time to turn our attention to the tie rods and the bell crank and get those components all freshened up.
With the steering all taken care of, the final project we're gonna do this week is we're gonna put some motor mounts on it, because the motor mounts on this one look like they've been through some type of fire. Kind of long. So let's do that real quick. So we got the motor hoisted up here under the oil pan skid plate, and was able to give us just enough room to put them back in. Holy smokes, this Jeep is driving silky smooth down the road now. We've done a ton of work this episode and it's starting to show. We have plenty more stuff to do, obviously, but she's come a long way. So that's gonna be end of this episode. If you guys like this stuff, please subscribe to the channel to see future episodes like this. Share these videos and like these videos. I'd really appreciate it. Also, if you're wondering where this Jeep came from, look at this video here, because it's a great story. And if you're looking forward to other stories like this, check out one of these older videos on an FJ55 that I had, and I think you'll enjoy it. Cheers, and we'll see you next time.